Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and I want to welcome you back to Season 4 of the Mindshare Podcast. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. Now, if you're not already, make sure you hit up the Buzz Conference on Instagram at the Buzz Conference and give them a follow. Also, make sure you get this month's copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine. They've got a brand new copy coming out every single month. And well, I will tell you that the January edition was incredibly special, and February is now also available. I also want to make note that on March 31st, 2022, coming up very shortly, we are doing the Recharge live in-person event for the Buzz Conference. It's happening at the Mississauga Living Arts Center, and tickets are on sale until March 15th. So hurry up, grab your tickets. The lineup is loaded. It is going to be an amazing, amazing event, and it is going to be so good to get back in person with a whole bunch of people. So visit the Buzz Conference at thebuzzconference.com. And when was the last time that you checked out the Kits Cross-Channel Marketing Suite? This is your full-on marketing tool set, starting with Loop CRM to help keep you organized, the most personalized and effective direct mail newsletters, email newsletters, websites, social media content, our super easy 3-click landing pages, complete with automated action plans, and so much more to help you manage your business, generate more leads and more referrals, and build that mind share to drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. And as you know, we are on a push to get to 100 reviews on iTunes and everywhere else. And so I'd like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes to rate the show, leave a review, and we're making this super easy for you. All you have to do is go to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. And of course, as always, thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 170. Hailing from the San Francisco Bay Area, she is the CEO and co-founder of Katie Lentz Consulting, a nationally known keynote speaker at conferences and events. And for the past 10 years, she has been working with real estate agents and brokers to help them get smarter about how to use social media to grow their business. Her specialty is in helping real estate agents and brokers achieve big results using social media without spending a ton of time. She is also the author of the best-selling book, Get Social Smart, and the founder of the Get Social Smart Academy. She's been named one of the most 100 influential people in real estate by Inman News and is a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post. This week on the show, I am joined by CEO and founder, Katie Lentz Consulting and the Get Social Smart Academy, Katie Lentz. Katie, welcome back to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thank you so much, David. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh my God, it's exciting to have you. It's always a nice conversation, and I am super, super pumped. I think people are going to get a ton. Let me rewind. I know people are going to get a ton of value today, but it's obviously one of those topics that is very... Well, it's a popular one. People need to know. People want to know. We got a lot of fear around this topic, which is interesting as well because of how mainstay it is in our worlds these days. But it isn't some big wonder of the world anymore. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, if you're in sales, bottom line, you need to be involved.
Yeah.
So, question: why are so many people so hesitant to get on social media? And what tips do we have to help them become more comfortable?
I think people are hesitant for a number of reasons, right? There's sort of the psychology behind, oh my gosh, I don't like how I look. I don't like how I sound. And a lot of that has to do with getting on video, which is, I'm sure we'll talk about that today. That's a huge part of social media and content, is showing your face and your personality. And then I also think we think, am I really that interesting? Like, what do I have to say? Like, what I do is not that different from, I think there's a lot of sort of psychology around why people are hesitant. A lot of people think it's too late. I've missed the boat, which totally disagree with. I think that the opportunity is wide open. And then there's always like, I don't have enough time. I'm so busy. And look, we make time for things that are important, right? And when it comes to your business, especially social media, it's making time for marketing, just like you make time for any other part of marketing, whether it's door knocking or writing thank you cards or making phone calls. Like, it's just one more marketing piece of your business, and it's not the end all and be all. But you got to make it a priority, just like anything else that's important.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that a lot of people, like I had a conversation with somebody, we'll get more into the time thing shortly, but I did have a conversation with somebody even this morning who brought that same thing up. And she was like, I'm looking to hire somebody. Do you know somebody that you would recommend? And I kind of went like, why? Yeah. And it really does revolve back to the whole time thing. But before we get to that, when you look at platforms, because there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
And I, for one, I'm looking at, sort of the landscape of what we use in terms of platforms. And I know they've become staple to what we do and how we do. And, we're not going anywhere, but there's this like desire to almost go like, I'm done, like enough already. Right. Or which one's right. And a lot of people have these questions. And we're on Facebook right now. And we both like leverage Instagram a big time, LinkedIn big time, TikTok. I look back and I go, last year during the Euro Cup, they were advertising like crazy. I look at my favorite team, which is my Toronto Maple Leafs, and they on the side of the helmet have TikTok. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen a social media platform advertised like that in the past, right? So the big question now is like people go, well, where should I go? Like which platform should I really be focused on? Where should I be spending time? Should I be spending more time on Instagram versus Facebook? Should I give up on both of them? Should I go over to TikTok? Should it be equal parts? Like what about LinkedIn? I mean, what say you?
There's no shortage of options really, right? You could be everywhere. And I mean, I really think as an agent or broker, you don't have to be everywhere. I don't think you have to be all things to all people. And there's a couple things I'll say about this. So I think first off, you have to think about where do you enjoy spending time? What is enjoyable for you? If it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, where are your clients hanging out, which is even more important, I think also. And sometimes we just assume, we think, oh, my clients aren't here or they're not there, but we don't know, right? Maybe send them an email and ask, hey, we're working on serving you better through our marketing, through social media. And we're just curious, where are you spending time? Is it Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, none of the above? And, just asking. And then
asking the question, like almost when you're like on the phone with somebody or an email, like, hey, are you on social? Like, where do you operate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it could be just a one-on-one conversation, or you might send an email to your database, just, saying, hey, like I said, we're working on improving how we serve you, through social media. Where are you spending time? And it might be surprising, I
like that idea.
Yeah. So I think
this way it helps you figure out like, where are your people?
Yeah. Where are your people hanging out? And I think the other big like piece of that question of where to spend time, I also like to remind anyone listening that, and I know this, as much as we love social media is rented ground. We don't own it. And so as much as I think it's important to spend time on a platform or two, or maybe even three to engage and connect, I think that's a whole other conversation. But as far as like content, I am a huge believer in creating content and assets that you own no matter what, right? If Facebook goes down today, you're good. Twitter, good. LinkedIn, good. YouTube, you're good. And like what you're doing right now is a perfect example with your podcast. This is a piece of content you own. You can distribute it wherever you want to distribute it. And, I think when I look at a lot of the agents we've worked with, the ones who've taken the time to create their own kind of library of content, it takes time. It's not the easy button, but there's so many benefits long term. So anyway.
Okay, talk to me about content for a second, because I think that when we circle back to the first question there around like why, like what's the fear? And I mean, I make the joke these days. I'm like who went on social this morning? And everybody's like, oh, I did. And like, did you go on there looking literally for like the most important thing you've ever seen in your entire life? Like, were you searching for the fountain of youth this morning and you were disappointed you didn't find it? And people kind of chuckle. They're like, well, no. I'm like, exactly. But you saw the puppy picture and you clicked like.
Right.
So why couldn't you post that? But I do believe that the fear around why people don't post, why they don't get engaged is out of fear and out of lack of content. So when we talk about content and creating that stuff, and I love what you said there about you don't own it. That was actually the keynote that we did in Atlanta, was like, own your audience. Mm-hmm. What kind of content should people be putting together? What can they think about, or just maybe some ideas that they can spark for them to go, oh, I like that. I'm going to go work on that.
Yeah. So I really believe in this idea of creating pillar content, which is typically content that takes a little bit more time, sometimes money, and resources. And it's typically content that's in your voice, that has your opinion, your personality. A lot of times it's somewhat evergreen. So it's relevant today, but it is potentially relevant 3 months from now, 6 months from now, maybe even 12 months from now. it could be content like this. It could be where you're live broadcasting. It could be video content that's pre-recorded. It could be blog content. It could be podcast content. And, not all content you create is going to be timeless or evergreen. There's going to be some content that is timely. It has to do with what's happening with the market. But I think for any agent or broker, if you can start to think about just the questions you get asked all the time, the questions where someone asks you something and you think, I could ask this literally one more time. That's a great piece of content. So it's not always the most exciting content, but it's really relevant. Things like who pays for what, and what are your biggest tips for moving, and what's the biggest mistakes every first-time home buyer makes, and what if you're trying to invest? What are some things you should think about? Like all of that, those again sort of timeless questions. And I really recommend that agents and brokers think about who they want to target, like who is their audience, and it may be who they're working with right now, or maybe it's not. If you want to get more into the luxury market, then you should start to create some content around luxury, luxury living or luxury homes, or whatever it might be. So it's kind of thinking about who you want to attract, who you want to work with, and also just kind of finding your voice. And I think part of that finding your voice is just doing the work. Like the more you can get on camera, the more you can actually create content, you'll quickly learn like how to hold the camera and, how to introduce yourself and, how to add in a story without going off on a long tangent or whatever it might be. So, I just, like I said, kind of thinking about some of those different pillars, whether it's video, podcast content, and then really starting to think about how that can go across multiple platforms. And then we can repurpose content and reshare content. Once you start going down this road, you'll never run out of content. I mean, I'm sharing stuff to my Facebook page that I created 3 months ago because it's still relevant,
Well, then it's that other thing too about like taking all that sort of like long form content that we have and then starting to chop it up and be able to share that out as well in different capacities. I think that people probably put too much pressure on themselves around what they have to say, or maybe the thought around I don't have anything to say. Mm-hmm. And it always takes me back to a conversation I had with a lady in Arizona, and she was like munching on a sandwich, and she, like, after I got off stage, she was talking to me. She's like, talk to me about this and that. And I said, like, were you on social today? She goes, yeah. I said, what were you scrolling for? She goes, I don't know. I said, like, when were you on? She goes, actually, just before I spoke to you while I was eating this sandwich. I said, perfect. Why? She goes, I don't know. I was just there. I said, exactly.
Exactly.
Most people don't know that they're even there at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. It's just this habitual thing that we do these days.
Yeah.
So it's almost about just be part of that, right?
Yeah.
And finding who you are. And again, off the heels of the combo with this client of mine, friend of mine earlier this morning, it's that authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? Being who you are. And I truly do not believe that if you hire somebody to do that for you, they're going to be able to pull out who you are.
Yeah.
That's going to be you. Right. And
you might be able to, we work with some great editors, and as you grow and you create more content, like that's a great way to sort of hire help if you need help. Maybe it's hiring a virtual assistant to help, with a little bit of podcast editing or video editing, or helping schedule some content and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, you have to show up. Social media is social, so it would be like if I all of a sudden started having other people on my videos, like that's like I'm the brand. You know what I mean? Like, I got to show up, and same thing. Like, if you DM me, if you message me, like, that's me. I'm answering.
Yeah.
It's like that conversation is it's just so important, and it's back to authenticity, like you said.
Right. So okay. So what are some of the common mistakes that people are making then on a regular basis around that, where it's they hiring somebody to do it for you, hiring somebody to be there. I mean, I always often make this joke of like, you hire somebody to do your socials, like hiring somebody to, go to a party for you.
Right.
It doesn't make they weren't invited. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a huge mistake. And I understand why. I think a lot of times a lot of folks I see sort of dismiss it because we don't always address the why. And I think the why is because realtors are busy, agents are busy. And, there's only so many hours in the day, and they think to themselves, okay, what is something that I could hand off to someone else? How could I be more efficient with my time? And so I think it kind of comes down to that time issue of making it a priority, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes every morning while you are drinking your cup of coffee. And I think being really, to your point of being, with mindshare and mindfulness, being really mindful of when you are on social media. I did this recently. I mean, I do this all the time where I look at my, I have an iPhone, so I can always see my screen time, right? Like how much time am I spending? And I'm in the business of social media, so I'm probably going to be on more, than perhaps other folks. But just being really mindful of, are we just picking up our phone just to scroll, or are we being really mindful about those 10 minutes? And what are we doing? Not just, mindlessly scrolling. One quick tip I often share is I try to do every day focus 5, where I'm scrolling through my feed and I think to myself, who are 5 people that I can just authentically connect with? And it doesn't mean I'm making 5 new friends a day, but just leaving some meaningful comments. Maybe I'm wishing someone a happy birthday. I'm commenting on their vacation pictures. I might send them a Facebook private message because I saw something that they posted and wanted to reach out to them personally. It just takes a few minutes, but it's these small little actions over the course of time. And it's that relationship building piece that is so vital. And I feel like it gets kind of buried underneath what should I post and how often should I post? Like the content conversation, super important. But that other conversation of just connecting and being a noticer of other people and being authentic is so valuable, especially in real estate.
Which one's more important? Engaging with others or posting my own content?
I mean, I think it's pretty equal, but I think that the engaging part of it, if you're stuck on content, if that's kind of the big thing that's sort of holding you back with, oh my gosh, I got to create content, I got to get a content strategy together. If that's holding you back or feeling overwhelming at all, just start with the engaging part of it. And I would also say too, if you are in the, going down the road of posting content and creating content, and you feel like, why aren't I getting more likes? Why aren't I getting more engagement? You need to spend more time on engagement. And I mean, I think it goes hand in hand. Before I ever post something to any platform, this might sound corny or crazy, I don't know, but before I ever post something, I spend a few minutes before I post just looking through my feed. I'll try to focus 5. I'll connect with a few people, and then I'll post. And then I'll probably take another 2 or 3 minutes to respond to notifications. It's not this like post and run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of people make that mistake. It's like get it up and get out.
Yeah.
Or the other common mistake I would say is like stalking people, where they, they just go on there. It's like you scroll and scroll and scroll.
Like,
you acknowledge,
everything.
but you do nothing. You say nothing to anybody. And it's like, listen, tell people you're there. Just say hi. And I tell people, like, click like. And if you get really brave, click like love. It's unbelievable. And people are like, it really is that simple, though.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. And you're triggering algorithms, and you're getting, you're getting the algorithms kind of go, hey, you're engaging with people and you're keeping people on our platform. And like we said, it's about the eyeballs. You're getting people to stay here. This is good. We like you, right?
Absolutely. And one simple tip or takeaway for anyone watching this that I try to do is think about the last time you posted something. It was probably yesterday or maybe the day before. If you go back to that post and you had 4 or 5 comments, if possible, go back and comment back to each one of those people. Even if it's just, thank you or thanks for chiming in. I like to use their name whenever possible. I might ask a question like, hey, thank you so much for chiming in, David. Like, what do you think? Do you agree with what I just posted? Or have you ever seen this? Whatever. And because you're commenting back, as there's a whole algorithm, and whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, your post tends to start getting seen by more people. Which is why when we're on Facebook, we see posts from 2 or 3 days ago because there's still a conversation happening in the comments. So just, it's important to connect with other people's posts, but also your own posts. If people took the time to comment, if possible, comment back. It's just a tiny thing that I think really makes a big difference.
Let's go specific to the birthday post then for a second, right? Mm-hmm. Where you obviously get the notifications. It's so-and-so's birthday. I do spend time in the mornings wishing everybody a happy birthday. I am a big believer that, if you actually send a birthday card, you're going to get even a lot more out of that. And what you're going to get, it's not what you get, it's what you're going to cause for the other person of that warm and fuzzy. And I think I truly think we've lost the art of wishing somebody happy birthday. That's
We've gotten a little lazy.
Yeah, but like Facebook has given us that ability. Yeah. We leverage it. And now we've got this thing where it's like you wish somebody happy birthday and they go back and they click like. Now, what say you about I don't need somebody to click anything once I wish it to them. That's their prerogative. But when we come back to that thing about like algorithm for a moment. This is a day of the year where your Facebook's probably going to get a little bit more traction than it usually does.
Yeah.
Should people be focused on going back to every single one of those comments and like saying, hey, thank you, or is clicking like or love enough? And we're just talking like, again, triggering the algorithm right now, and more than anything.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's like one of those things where you want to be authentic, right? And so I feel like there's always this balance of like responding and, triggering the algorithm, but also being authentic, right?
Yeah,
so,
totally.
I mean, for myself, personally, oftentimes I will, depending on what the message is, if it's just happy birthday, right? I'll click like or love or whatever it might be. But the people who took it just like an extra step further and maybe sent me a video or like added a little meme or wrote a couple sentences, like I'm more likely to respond and say, wow, thank you so much. I hope all is well with you, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I find it just kind of depends, but I do think it's important. I don't think you have to do it on your birthday, maybe the day or two after, because sometimes you can get, lots of comments, in the way with Facebook, things tend to get kind of buried when you get a lot of comments all in one spot. So a lot of times I'll just take, a couple of days after and just go through and go, respond. And sometimes I'll even send them a message too, like a private message on Facebook, like, hey, I saw your post. Like, thank you so much. It really means a lot. I haven't talked to you in a long time. How are things going? And that's where I think a lot of the relationships happen, is the private messages, whether it's Facebook or Instagram.
And isn't that the reason why we're doing all this, right? Is to build up on the relationship, to create the rapport with another individual. And I think that's a really great point you bring up there, is using that DM on that other side. Because when we post to Facebook, or when I even post on your timeline to wish you happy, we know that that's like a big, wide kind of post, right?
Yeah.
So if people can actually turn back and say, well, not only just this big wide post, but now we've got this individual DM going with each other. Now this individual conversation, that's where you're going to be able to pull out so how's the kids? How's baseball? How's hockey? How's, like, you can have that, which you wouldn't have on the public side of things.
Right.
Right.
And it just shows that you're a noticer. I mean, we were chatting right before this, and you were asking about my boys, and we were chatting about some things, and it's because you're a noticer. We're trying to pay attention. And I think with social media, it makes it really easy. We post things that are important to us, whether it's family or pets or a great glass of wine, whatever it might be. And so it's really easy to get a sense of what's important to people and what could be a conversation starter.
So I think it's more about spending time than it is about money. However, the question here becomes, should we be spending money on social media? Is there a difference? First, there's the first question. Should we be spending money to make our social media, strategy really come to life? Or is this more about time and effort?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it's where you're going to spend the money. I think the mistake a lot of agents make with marketing in general is we just kind of throw money at things. I mean, I remember seeing this 10 years ago in postcards. It's like, I'm just going to buy this area. I'm going to spend $10,000. I'm going to mail all these, it's like money doesn't always solve the problem here, right? Like, you have to, I do think it's important to have a strategy and a plan. And if you've never sat down and worked with a marketing professional or a consultant, or, sometimes it does help to spend a little bit of money on either coaching or training to, whether it's a program or an individual coach, whatever it might be, to kind of go, okay, let's sit down and make a plan. I do think that there's, some value in that. I think that there's also value in at some point, as you start creating content, maybe you do spend some money on a great editor who can take your 20-minute video and chop it up into 20 different posts for social media, right? Like, I think that's a really valuable way to spend money. Maybe not right out of the gate, right? But, down the road as well. And then, of course, there's money on advertising. And you could certainly spend money on any kind of advertising on social media. But again, it's not like the Band-Aid, like, okay, this isn't working, I'm just going to start throwing money at it. Because if you don't have an overall plan of who are we trying to reach, what's the end goal, what type of content, who's going to manage it, then you're just kind of throwing money out there, whether it's $20 or $2,000. It's, so.
That's the big thing that gets me, though, right? Is like when we go for the Band-Aid fix on social, when we believe that just hiring somebody to do it for us, and I know I made the joke about going to the party, but when we believe that somebody else can go there, be that authentic voice and do that, just because we've spent money, now we've got a social media strategy. And you said it, and we say it all the time, social media is social media. So spending money to make that strategy happen is not the way to get it started. Once you get it started and start to climb, at that point now you can say, okay, I've got this wealth of content. I got all these things going on. Could I bring somebody in to help me start to chop up some of that stuff? And then again, repurposing it, using it across different platforms. I think that that's where it can go. But I mean, here's the other side of the equation. And this is, I sort of brought this up to you prior to getting on air, but the boosting versus running ads. First question, is there a difference?
Absolutely, there's a difference. Yes. So boosting and ads are similar but different, right? They're like apples and oranges. It's like how Facebook and Instagram are similar but different, and so boosting is almost like, if you've never run ads before, it's like running ads with training wheels, right? It's a really easy way to get started. I don't necessarily think that there's anything inherently wrong with boosting. It's a great way to just kind of get your feet wet with the Facebook ad platform. Facebook makes it really easy. You hit that boost button, you put your credit card in. It gives you a couple limitations in terms of targeting, and you go. And a lot of times with boosting, so the result with boosting isn't necessarily lead generation, but it's getting your post in front of more people, right? So instead of a smaller audience, it gets it in front of a bigger audience. And, depending on what your goal is, that might be effective. But really running targeted Facebook ads is a whole nother ballgame. It's completely different. And you can, if for your listeners who've never done that, it's just facebook.com/ads. It's Facebook's ad manager. And there are so many different options, right? Obviously there's different targeting. You can run ads within Facebook stories. You can run ads, within all different places within Facebook. You can run your ads on Instagram as well, and other platforms that Meta or Facebook now owns. And there are still some limitations because real estate is a special ad category in a lot of countries. So depending on where you're running your ad, I know in the US it's a limited category, I believe in Canada too, although I'm not 100% sure, but I do think it is because of fair housing and other issues. So.
And you got to be very careful on how you leverage those words as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Facebook ads used to be kind of the wild, wild west. And it reined that back in. So I also think with running ads through Facebook Ad Manager, it is a very, very much so a long-term strategy. I find that the agents and brokers who are leveraging the most out of Facebook ads are kind of doing two things really well. Number one, they're long-term strategy. They're not just running an ad for a listing. It's like, what's your year-long ad plan? What does that look like? And then number two, they are putting out some unique content so they can do some retargeting. They're putting out videos, they're putting out engaging content. So they're not just targeting this blind audience of people who are over 25 who live in a specific area. They're actually retargeting people who have liked their videos, who watch their content, and things like that. So it's a much longer approach, but it's a strategic approach.
Like it's very different than that. Yeah, but it's a strategic approach. Like this is the whole idea behind a marketing strategy, having a marketing plan, having a budget, going, okay, what are we looking to achieve? What does success look like? Right. Once we know what success looks like, we put that in place and we measure, like we track, we measure, we adjust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like any other marketing campaign. I don't know what it is, but when people get to this whole thing of Facebook ads and social media ads, it's like, I'll throw a bunch of money at that because apparently people are just going to flock to me. And I'm like, dude, you are some random realtor looking for some random people to talk to you about some random, no, it does.
They don't know you at all.
It doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't go like that. Now, you just brought up Meta, and we bring up Facebook and Instagram, and I want to get into Instagram. Like almost like a bullet point question here. Have you got a favorite right now?
I'm loving Instagram.
Okay, cool. I was getting that vibe.
I mean, Facebook will probably always be Facebook was like my first love, right? I feel like we all started, our social media relationships on Facebook, and it's still where so many of my friends and family and clients are. But I love Instagram. I love that it's an aspirational platform. I love that it's pictures and videos, and I love all the different options that Instagram has. And honestly, I also love the engagement that happens, on Insta. And on Insta. I mean, I used to be able to post something on Facebook 5 years ago and get a ton of engagement, and it is just a lot harder. There's a lot of noise on Facebook, and so it's a lot more competitive as far as getting those eyeballs. It's still possible for sure, but I don't know. Instagram, I love it right now.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Are you finding that there's a pull away from Facebook a little bit right now? Like in terms of just like listening to people and kind of like this thing of like where their mindsets are at? Like, do they prefer Insta? Do they prefer TikTok? Are you finding any of that, or just curious?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because of everything that sort of happened, in our world over the last 2 or 3 years, I think there was a lot of noise. I think Facebook itself was in the press. There was a lot of, kind of negativity around a lot of things. And so I think for a lot of folks in their mental health, they decided to kind of pull back from Facebook, pull back from some of the noise and strife that we were seeing and sometimes still see on Facebook. Ironically, even though Facebook owns Instagram, I think a lot of folks flocked from Facebook over to Instagram, and then also TikTok. I think TikTok it's been amazing to see that platform grow. Originally everyone just thought, oh, it's just for the kids, which is, well, that's how Facebook started. It was just for college kids, right? And I think people are loving this short form, fun, playful, I keep calling it edutainment, content.
Yeah, that's what I say.
And so, it's one of the reasons why over on Instagram, Reels are still doing extraordinarily well in terms of views and things like that. And of course, now Facebook has Reels, right?
Well, right. Like, exactly. You know what I mean?
They always do.
It's awesome the way they're doing this. I mean, I think that I would agree with that. I think that just based on what's transpired over the past, 24 months or so, going into the Facebook platform and sort of reading things, I think it's changed a little bit about the way we operate in this landscape. But I think there has been a big push to Instagram. TikTok, again, the fastest growing platform there is out there right now. So definitely a lot of validity to be there. But focusing on the Instagram thing for a second, what are some do's and don'ts for Instagram? Like some things that people should know about the platform itself and like just kind of how to navigate.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole.
Oh, no.
Just on Instagram, right?
Didn't mean to open up that can. Or no, I know you could like go on for days about this stuff for sure. So I'm like bullet pointing for you. I'm like,
exactly. We'll keep it simple. I know, right? So I think it's important to understand like the different areas of Instagram. I think that's kind of first and foremost. Like you have Instagram stories, which are here today, gone in 24 hours. I love Instagram stories because I think that's a great way to connect with people who've already said, yes, I want to follow you, right?
Yeah.
That is a great way to deepen those relationships. We talked a lot about engagement earlier. That's what happens with stories. So stories is not just more facts of stuff that's happened in your day, but like connecting with people. I follow your stories. I know you've been traveling recently. I see stuff with your family. Like it's that behind the scenes. But then you also have the content in your feed, and that goes along with videos and reels. We know with Instagram that they are really prioritizing all video content, and especially Reels content, and that content is permanent. You post it out there, it's permanent. It's on your feed unless you delete it. You can of course share it to your story, but Reels is exploding in a big way. It's that sort of 30 to 60 second short form content. I always tell people you don't have to become the next dancing realtor, but that sort of fun, creative content, that educational content, quick tips, things like that. And then there's other parts of it like Instagram Live, which is obviously similar to Facebook Live, and then there's so many nuances in all of those. But I would say just first and foremost, as far as the do and don't, like just get a sense of what those different platforms are. First of all, get on Instagram. I really feel like if you're not on there, make sure your name is the same as however people know you in real life. Have a bio, your picture should be like the picture that I see on your website probably should be your Instagram picture. Let me know who you are, what area you serve, and then post consistently. If I go on your Instagram and you haven't posted in six months, 3 months, 2 months, like you're not there. It's like the lights are on, but nobody's home, right? So you've got to be consistent. And a big don't, I would say, is don't just have it be all about business. I know that you're a realtor and you've got just listed and just sold and under contract and open houses and testimonials. That's one bucket of your content. That's your promotional content. Like that's showing people that you are good at what you do, that you love what you do. But what about content around your community? What about content around local businesses, around real estate tips, moving tips? Like having some educational, informative content in that mix, I think is super important.
Okay, so that brings up a good question here because we get this one a lot. I know you get this one a lot, but so should I have a business page? Should I have a personal page? What should I post to here? What should I post to there?
Yeah, I think it depends. I think for most agents, though, having one account is going to be fine. It's one of the things I actually really love about Instagram. You can convert, if you have a personal profile, you just go into your settings. It's like 2 clicks of a button and you can convert it to a business account. I did this many years ago. And so I have one account. It's a business account. It doesn't mean that I don't talk about personal. I mean, I would say probably 30 to 40% of what I talk about is personal. Family, kids, our crazy cats, like all kinds of stuff, right? Baseball, exactly. Like things that are important to me. The other 70% are business. And so by having a business account, you can run ads, you can schedule your content, you can look at your analytics, you can have a nice little contact button right on your page where people can hit that and call you within 2 clicks of a button or email you. I think there's lots of possibilities. I do know some agents who have a private Instagram just for their friends and family because they do want to keep it separate. I don't know. I just feel like every time you open up a new platform, it's like one more thing to manage.
Right.
And especially with Instagram, I just feel like specifically it's very much a, you're not just business and I'm not just a mom, I'm not just a business owner, like I'm all these things. And when you follow me, like you're going to see all the different areas of my life because I'm not just one thing or another,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and again, is there a right? Is there a wrong? I mean, I think that could probably be argued on that front, but like I would tell you for myself, there's the business page for like the business, right? And that gets a lot of, and we're talking Facebook for a moment, business page for the business, it gets a lot of the business content. The personal timeline gets a lot of like the fun personal, and I really don't do a lot of cross-pollination. However, when it comes to Instagram, it's just one big happy marriage of like everything for me. You know what I mean? And like
exactly how I do it.
Yeah. And I mean, the feed stuff, and you said it perfectly there. And I won't say it verbatim because I don't know exactly how you said it, but to what you said, like your stories are like your behind the scenes, like the raw, the fun, the real, the like in the moment.
Yeah.
Whereas the stuff that's on your feed is it doesn't have to be like this crazy polished stuff with like the most perfect picture.
Right.
Done is better than perfect, right?
Exactly.
It's got, you're right, but it's got to be that thing of like, I know that's going to last.
Yeah.
Like I know that'll stick around a little bit longer, so maybe it's something that just gives a little bit more insight for people, right? But I mean, that's the way I leverage those two, and then obviously like the LinkedIn side of things is just very business, and then TikTok, which I do not post as much to at all, but I do venture over to every once in a while and probably scroll more than I post on TikTok. If I do, it's again like just a big blend of like trial and error. And I don't know how better to put that out there, but it's just, there's nothing sophisticated about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, you have to, that's part of it is just trying it out and seeing, if you're newer to TikTok or Instagram or any platform, I think there's a little bit of time where it's okay to be a lurker and just, see how the platform works and see if it's right for you and see if you enjoy it. And also, again, see if your ideal clients are on there. For us, most of our ideal clients are on Instagram or Facebook or both. And so that's where we're spending the majority of our time. I would also say YouTube, but that's kind of a whole nother conversation.
Well, I'm going to get it. I want to get into the video combo for a second here. I just want to give a big shout out to our friend Deborah Trapin, who's totally locked into the show right now. Deborah, you're amazing. Thank you for tuning in. But I love what you just said. I love knowing who the person is behind the scenes. It's a key part of how I decide who I hire and where I buy. And I love the fact that was just brought up because, again, that's something I say to people about stories. This is where you're letting people in. Yeah. You're letting people really get to know who you are. And now here's the beautiful thing. We come back to this thing of authenticity, right? You get to see who I am. You'll see me at the hockey rink. You'll see me stepping onto a stage. You'll see me in the studio. You'll see me doing things with my kids. You're going to see it all. And just, again, as Deborah just mentioned here, it's like, how do I decide who I'm going to work with? I want to really know who you are, not just the facade of who you are, right? Yeah. So Deborah, thanks for that one for sure. But to that question, or to that sort of, the follow-up to that, then, as we just brought up the YouTube thing, not getting to YouTube, but talking about video, Instagram was always a big photo sharing app. We know that they made a big push now to say, hey, we are a video. Like, I don't know if they came out exactly like that and said it, but like their big push is video now. We know with Reels, we know with the way they've changed the IGTV to just be IG video. Yeah. As we're talking to people about Instagram, how much emphasis are we going to push on them to say, get on video?
Oh, it's hugely important. I mean, and not just Instagram, but just in general. I mean, we talked earlier about pillar content and creating content you own and assets that you own no matter what. And hands down, I think video is the most effective type of content to create, because you can see how you can't hide who you are. Like, you are who, like, this is how I look. This is how I sound.
Right? Yeah.
This is who I am. And a lot of folks have a real struggle with that. They don't like how they look. They don't like how they sound. They're never on camera. I see this a lot, honestly, a lot with women who don't want to be on camera. They're more comfortable behind the scenes. And I always try to remind them, like, look, you are who you are. Like, you look how you look. It's, of course there's certain things we could do to, we all know how to kind of put our best foot forward. But I just think video is such a powerful thing. And I will also say too, that you don't always have to be on camera. There's lots of video opportunities with Reels as a quick example. You could do video.
I was going to say trending. Reels obviously are the spot to be, right?
Absolutely.
How do we make that simple? Yeah, I know, right? Like, if anybody's like really tried the editing on Reels, it is not simple. But you can't. Right. It can be. Like I've said to people, just do that quick pan, throw some tunes into it, put a little caption, at least get used to the process.
Exactly. It can be as simple as that. I mean, I was just doing a training the other day, and I gave a quick tip. I said, like, the next time you're at a listing or an open house, you could take out your phone, and instead of doing the boring, like, and here's the kitchen, and here, like, we've all seen those, right? It's like the total boring video. But, like, why not take out your phone and just shoot a 2-second video of the kitchen, and 2 seconds walking the front door, and maybe 2 seconds of, like, the backyard, and 2 seconds of, like, the family room, right? So now you've got this 7 or 8 seconds on your phone. You just open up Reels, and you just upload each one of them, right in a row. You pick a song that you like, and if you really want to get fancy, put some text over the screen, and that's it. You write a little caption, you publish it, and that doesn't replace a professional listing video or any kind of other professional photography, but it's like, it's one small way to kind of dip your toe into the water. You could even do a voiceover if you really want to get fancy. You can do voiceovers now with Reels. I actually do a lot of voiceover video using Video Shop, the Video Shop app. I absolutely love. That's like my go-to app for iPhone or Android. I love the voiceover feature. Is great because then they hear you, but you're not on camera. So
right, Video Shop.
Video Shop. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If you go to videoshop.net, it'll give you the links for all the different platforms. I'm not affiliated. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, no, totally. I've been using one called Viva Video forever. I think it's like a whopping $3 a month or something for the VIP. Yep. It's been phenomenal for me, and because I'm so used to it, and they're constantly upgrading as well. So there's so many different things you can do. But
that's awesome.
Great points, though, right? Like. And again, for everybody, I just want to reiterate that, right? When you're out and about and you say, like, I haven't got the time, you don't need to be posting in the moment, right? You can take all of those clips, then sit down later on, like on the couch or whatever, once you get some time, and start to stitch that together and post it tomorrow. Post it in 2 days from now. People won't really know when you capture the content, but you will be posting content.
Yes,
right? And that's one of the biggest trends.
In the moment, I mean,
that's it.
Whenever I'm out with people, I think a lot of people assume that I'm going to be like on social media all the time because I'm a social media person. And I hate that. I hate when I'm out with people and they're always just looking down at their phone. So, like, yes, I love to take pictures or a couple videos, but then it's like, I'll post it later. Why do we have to feel like we have to do it right now? Yeah. We don't.
I tell you, that's exactly it. Like, snap your photos, get your video, take the 2-second clips like you mentioned, just do your thing. You can deal with it another time. You're starting to bank that content, right?
Yeah.
Starting to create that content library.
And if I can say one other quick tip on that idea, because you said banking content, which reminded me of like a small thing that I think makes a big difference is batching content for video content. If you're doing any kind of recorded video where you're recording with your phone, this has been a lifesaver. I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years. I mean, the days where I'm like, I have a good hair day, or, like I'm in the zone, whatever it might be, like I'm going to sit down and record 2, 3, 4 videos all in one shot. And I've gotten to the point where I just put on my calendar, usually around the 15th of every month. I set aside a couple hours. I get my notes together. My husband's my cameraman. We get set up and I'll batch a ton of videos all in one shot. And I'm not publishing them all, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm batching them ahead of time. And that way, that's how you get that consistency, because there's never really a great time. There's always something that's going to come up. And it just helps you be really consistent if you can do it all in one batch. So I'll do that with some of our long form content for YouTube, but I also do it with my Reels. If I'm in the zone with Reels, I'll record 2 or 3 Reels, save them as a draft, and And then you feel like, yeah, I've got some content, in the can. And then you can post things in the moment, a beautiful sunset or a picture of your kids or something, because it's in the moment, right? But you've got that content ready to go.
Everybody tuned in. You officially have 0 excuses allowed anymore. She just gave you the exact secret on how to do this. That's that stuff.
Actually, I'm telling you, it is the secret sauce. It sounds crazy, but it's just, I don't know. I've done it where I have batched, I haven't batched. I can just tell you from experience. It's like, have a plan or not have a plan. Always, have a plan.
Look, I can't execute consistently. Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, I'm so busy. Well, again, have the plan, batch properly, be prepared for it, and then you can have a consistent execution. And I think that that's, in the bigger picture of like everything in life, I think that's something that's really important for everybody to understand, is that consistency really is that magic ingredient, like to anything, right?
Yes.
And it is about the tiny little things that we do each day that are going to create the bigger picture. I try to explain this to the kids. I try to explain this to professionals. Like that little stuff you did today, whether it felt like there was an immediate result or not, that helped with something. Right. Yeah. So keep that up again tomorrow and always have that, like you just said, that plan.
And as I said in the beginning, a lot of people think, oh, it's too late. Like there's already people in my market doing it. Well, here's the good news. Most people are not consistent. Most people get fired up and they do it for a week or two and then they get busy. But because it wasn't in their schedule, because they didn't have a plan, it just falls off the radar, right? We've all done that with other things that we've committed to in life. We get all fired up and then like 3 weeks later, we totally lost sight of what we were doing. So if you can just stay consistent and get those things on your calendar, stick to the plan. This isn't about going viral. This isn't about like posting something and getting 100,000 views. You're going to start to post things and you'll get 20 views, 10 views. One of them is your mom. Like it takes time.
That's so true, right?
So, be the one who sticks with it. There you go.
But I love that because I joke about that often, and people that are tuned in that like on a regular, which I thank you all for tuning in on a regular. I will always bring up that whole thing about like most people, right?
Yes.
Most people. Well, here's the deal: we don't want to be most people, right? So that's where the consistency comes in, and again, allow that to really like fuel you to the point where you go, yeah, most people will give up. And that moment where you see your competition come out with this big thing, you're like, oh my God, look what they're doing. I can't believe they're doing that. Give it a week or two and see if they're still doing it. Right? Yeah, like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, look at you. I'm just looking at the bottom of the screen. This is episode 170. That's huge.
Oh my God. I know. Where did this come from?
Most people, start a podcast and it's like they get to like episode 4 and then it just sort of falls off the rails, so you are not like most people, David.
That's the key, just keep pushing.
Exactly.
Can you talk to me about hashtags? Because there's like I've said to me, people ask the question all the time, how many hashtags? What should you do with hashtags? And I'm like, look, straight up. You're not like, not you, but like them. Like you're not a social media like guru. This is not what you do every single day. So just like do yourself a favor and like sell real estate or do what you do, but just use hashtags. And like that's my simplicity to it, because I think that trying to keep up with like, what did they tell us to do today? It can be like a full-time job trying to keep up with that, right? So my whole thing is like just at least use them. And then we get into like a little bit of the nitty gritty around like hyper local versus like things that are like in the millions and such like that. But what's your 2 cents on hashtags right now, just in terms of like, what people should know or, using it?
So hashtags tend to make the most sense on Instagram right now. I see a lot of people using them on Facebook, and nobody I know is searching hashtags on Facebook, right? So typically for Instagram, it's a great growth strategy if you want to increase your engagement, your followers. And you have a public account, I would say a business public account. If your account's private, hashtags don't matter at all. The whole point of a hashtag is for people to find you. And it's also a way for Instagram to sort your content. Because people ask me all the time, like, are people actually searching hashtags? Well, some are. But the other purpose of using a hashtag is so when you post your content in Instagram, part of the algorithm, one of the things Instagram does is they go, well, what is this post? And who is an ideal person to see it? So your post will go out to some of your followers, but it will also go out to other folks who might be interested. If you go on Instagram recently, this is actually a pretty new change to Instagram. You'll see your followers, but then you'll also see, oh, you might be interested in so-and-so because you follow this person, right? And it all has to do with hashtags. So keep it simple. You don't have to post a gazillion hashtags. You can post up to 30, but some of the latest data shows that less is more. I always think about kind of the who, what, and where with a hashtag, like who should be seeing this post. where is it and what is it all about, right? So if you're in, I don't know, San Francisco, it might be hashtag I heart San Francisco, hashtag I love San Francisco, hashtag San Francisco homes, hashtag San Francisco homes for sale. It's a little bit of the community. It's a little bit of real estate, a little bit of who you want to attract. But yeah, less is more. Again, you don't need to do a ton of, I would say, research on it. Just pick a few. You might even, I use later.com for a lot of my scheduling. And what I love about Later is you can save groups of hashtags. So I have some different groupings of hashtags, and just all click a button and it populates my Instagram post. So I'm not always like, wait, what was that hashtag?
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice.
And in the comments or in the post itself, again,
it doesn't matter. I typically put it in the post. I typically will write a post, and then I'll kind of use a couple kind of bullet points, kind of periods. And then I usually kind of push my hashtags down so they're not kind of smushed with the rest of the post. But
yeah. Okay.
But I also think people tend to ask that hashtag question without also understanding that the importance of the rest of the caption is also really important, Good
headline, good CTA.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You mentioned before about, I'm doing some rapid fire right now. You mentioned before about your photo, and I loved when you brought that up. You said the photo that you got in your Insta profile should be the same photo you got on your website.
Yeah.
To that effect right there, some quick profile tips maybe people should know about, how to really optimize, because that's going to kind of lead me into maybe the next question I got for you there.
Yeah. Yes. So you have a limited amount of real estate in your profile, in your bio. No pun intended. But
I was going to say pun intended.
Yes, exactly. I think it's right around 150 characters. People are always like, I don't have enough room to say anything. I'm like, well, you got to cut it down. So yes, your profile picture, I'm a big believer of having it be consistent. So if you get Googled and people are on different platforms, they know who you are, especially if you have a common name. I think that's important. So your name, I think, should be either your name or how people know you, whatever your business name is. We want to try to be as consistent as possible with that. And then in your profile itself, you want to have a little bit about who you are personally. If you're a hockey mom, or you are you've got kids or whatever. I always like to have a little bit of something personal. For me, I think mine says family first, and then business wise, what's your title? You're a broker. You serve this particular area. One way to kind of cut down on real estate is if you're mentioning your broker, which a lot of folks need to because of the rules in their local area. So if you're saying, hey, I'm a realtor and I'm with such and such real estate. Well, if you spell out the whole name of that real estate company, that is a lot of real estate, right? If that real estate company is on Instagram, you could just tag them instead, right? I am with at whatever that company is. And that will kind of shorten up the real estate on your bio, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally.
So where you work, what area you serve. I know in the U.S., I'm not sure if this is true in Canada, but I know in the U.S., a lot of folks are required to put their Department of Real Estate number in their bio as well. If you're not sure, ask your broker about if there's any logistics that you have to have in there.
This show is not meant for legal advice.
Exactly. You don't have to put your email and phone number. If you have a business account, you can add that contact button to your profile. So when people hit that contact button, your phone number or email or both will pop up. But just a little bit about who you are personally and professionally. It'd be like if you met someone at a cocktail party and you were introducing who you are. I like to add a few emojis in my bio also, just to kind of make it fun and kind of break it up. And then lastly, with your bio, you're allowed one link, right? One live link. That's why people say, click the link in my bio. If you're if you're new on Instagram, you might have wondered, why do people say that? Well, because you can't put links in Instagram comments. They're not clickable. So I use a tool called Linktree. There's lots of tools that are out there that are like that. Linktree is a free tool, and you can add multiple links in your bio. So I'm always adding in our latest video, our latest podcast. For a lot of the agents we work with, they have links to their open houses, to their latest buyers, to signing up for their newsletter, and find them on YouTube and find them on Facebook. And having a resource like that is really helpful because you can drive traffic to different places. So those are a couple small things. The other thing I'll just say real fast about your bio is highlights. So at the bottom of your bio, you can have these little buttons across the middle. If you go to my bio, I have red buttons, and your highlights come from your stories. So stories disappear, as you know. And I like to grab some of my stories and add them to my highlights. And it's a great way to give people a sense of who you are. If I'm on your bio if I'm on your profile and I really want to see like, who are you, what are you all about? I'm going to read your bio, but I'll also look at your highlights. Like that gives me a sense of who you are professionally, like what's most important to you, things like that. And that's also a trigger when someone's spending more time on your profile. It's a trigger to Instagram. Like, oh, that person's interested in that person. We should show them their content. So.
And then to me, I mean, they're talking to the stories thing. That's like where to me, one of the best mindshare hacks, because the more consistent you are with that stuff, with your stories, the more these people engage with you, the more you're going to show up at the top of their feed pretty much every time they open up their feed.
Yeah.
That is completely free, right? Yeah. Now that kind of leads me into this with a sort of a shorter question here, because I know we could rap about this for a bit, but that whole thing about generating online leads, right? And we've talked about this. And again, I really want to just be clear. Like, I don't believe I'm a lead. I believe I'm a person, a homeowner, a father, a husband, but we'll get onto that one. And our friend Karen Carr went off about that the other day. It was amazing.
I love Karen.
But to that, how do people leverage this stuff to generate those organic leads? I think you just mentioned it through Linktree, the consistency, the bios, some of the other profile stuff. Like, is there anything there just from and Katie, when I say organic, I mean like there's ways to leverage your social and what you do authentically to get people to be attracted to you. Yeah. Right. And to that could be, again, I hate saying generating a lead, but it's like you didn't have to pay for that.
Right.
And maybe I just answered the whole thing by just us talking for the past 57 minutes. But I'm like, have you got something that just says like, do this, or like if you want to generate more on?
Well, honestly, I mean, it takes more time, but it goes back to the whole content conversation. If you can get into the habit of batching your content, of getting it out on a regular basis, for example, if you're sitting down and recording 4 or 5 videos for the next month and you commit to, okay, I'm going to release 1 video a week on, maybe Facebook, Instagram, and maybe LinkedIn or something. You pick a couple platforms, you're going to release those. Maybe you don't even repurpose it because you just haven't got there yet, but you're going to get them up there. If you can do that consistently, week after week after week, and not give up, right? Like, it takes time to get known. There's a really great book out called Known that I read probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it's a really fantastic read about how long does it take to get known. And the reality is most people give up. They give up because 3 months into it, they're getting like 4 views, 5 views, no leads, nothing's happening. 6 months, a lot of times nothing happens. And then what happens is 7, 8, 9 months into it, someone reaches out to you who you don't know, and they say something like, oh my gosh, David, I feel like I know you. I feel like you're in my head. I want to work with you. And they are selling you on how great they are. And now it's up to you to decide if you want to work with them. And it's this whole difference between like attracting business versus chasing leads, right? It's like that's what content marketing is. Mm-hmm. It takes time. And those leads are the best leads. I just had someone in our academy tell me this story. She started putting videos out last January. So it's been, 14 months or so. And a few months ago, she got her first lead. And she was like, Katie, I've been doing this for a while, like putting out really great videos week after week. And this person was moving cross country, and they did some Googling, and they came across her and they said, of course we want to work with you. Who else would we work with? Like, we've watched the last 16 videos that you've published, right? Like, they've been, and it's the quality of a lead, the quality of that person is so much better because they know you. You don't have to like sell yourself. So organically it takes time. And then there's all these little things along the way that can help that, so.
Some great points made there. I think that, but I truly believe that again, that consistency is the key, right? Like, we talk about saving people time with social. We talk about, executing consistently and really sticking it out for the long haul. I mean, I guess first, from a marketing strategy, I believe social media is one channel of everything we do. Mm-hmm. It cannot be the only channel. It's got to be part of a multi-channel approach. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't just exist, in a silo. I mean, I saw you talk about this recently. I mean, I feel like you and I are always on the same page with like taking the online offline, right? Where you see it's someone's birthday and you could be one of the 50 people that writes on their page, happy birthday, or maybe you're the one person that calls them that day. Or, I've received some of the things that you've mailed me, right? Like traditional marketing still works, and you can do it in conjunction with social media, right? It's not like one or the other. It's oftentimes they work together.
It's the support mechanisms, right? Because it's again, it's kind of leveraging one to sort of bring attention to the other, and all together. Again, it circles right back to figuring out who you are. It's that authenticity of like this person's a real person, and wow, they're being very genuine about who it is. So now as we look at all this, there's a ton that we can go over. There's a ton we can keep talking about. Just a few last questions here. One of them being, again, because you've talked about simplifying from the time perspective. You talked about batch creating. What kind of emphasis do we put on like actually schedule when you're going to be on social media rather than just like, hey, Katie, just a second here, just got to scroll my Facebook, right? Have you got it? I mean, what's your 2 cents to anybody on that? Like, is it like schedule like a hard time of like when you're going to open, or how do you operate that, or suggest to people?
Yeah. I mean, I typically recommend that to be successful, I really recommend time blocking daily, weekly, and monthly. So on a daily basis, putting on your calendar 10 or 15 minutes a day to like, comment, engage, to focus 5, like we talked about earlier, to respond to comments, to be really intentional, to be a noticer, to, where it's not about you, it's about other people, right? At a minimum, 10 or 15 minutes a day. It could be in the morning, it could be in the evening, whatever it might be. On a weekly basis, I recommend setting aside about an hour or so where you're scheduling some of your content. Not everything. We're not automating everything. We're not like hitting a button and just like magically, spray and pray everywhere. But like we're setting aside some time to look ahead, right? I typically do this on Fridays. I've been doing this for years. I think about what's coming up. What do I want to post about? And so taking some time to schedule. You can use tools like Facebook Business Suite, which I think is great, or Facebook Creator Studio, or later.com, like we talked about earlier. Doesn't mean you're scheduling everything, but getting some things in the can. Maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever. You're scheduling some of your content. And then on a monthly basis, setting aside a solid chunk of time, 3-4 hours once a month, to batch create a lot of your content. That could be video content. That could also include a little bit of editing if you're doing some of your own editing, which I don't necessarily think you have to do editing, but you can do editing. It might be creating some Canva graphics, right? Canva's awesome. I love Canva. And you're kind of doing that all in one batch. So each one of those time chunks is for a different purpose. Like when I'm sitting down to do my 10 or 15 minutes of connecting with people, I'm not scheduling something, right? Because I did that 3 days ago.
Gotcha.
So
okay, I like that.
It's just kind of getting those, and obviously as your community grows, as your connections grow, you'll probably adjust that. I mean, I spend a lot more than 10 or 15 minutes a day on social media because I'm in the business of social media. So my purpose is a lot different, than an agent or broker. But again, I think it comes back to like thinking about it, not just like, oh, this is a fun thing I'm going to scroll through, but this is time you're spending for marketing, and it is important. And it means that you say no to something else. If I have scheduled on my schedule to spend 4 hours or 3 hours recording videos, and someone says, hey, can I jump on a call with you? I want to talk about X, Y, and Z. We want to hire you for this. I'm going to say, hey, I'm not available at that time, but how about this time or this time? And it's okay to say you're not available, right? I think there's this feeling of like, I have to be available 24/7. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say, hey, I'm not available right now, but how about this day or this time, right? So that's a whole other conversation. But
yeah, totally.
Life,
It's the same thing I say to people, like, unless you're in the middle of a back and forth of an offer,
right?
Or the house is burning down.
Okay? Exactly. There's always exceptions. Absolutely.
It can wait,
Absolutely.
Right? It really can. And that's part of being in control of your time. But again, we can get on that. I could talk about that one for a long time. So speaking of time, curious. And as we look at a day and we look at what people do in a day, how do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that. How do I know if it's been a successful day? I would say, professionally, it's probably making sure that I'm getting things done beyond just putting up fires, beyond just like going through my email. I think sometimes our email becomes our to-do list, right? We just jump on and it's like 6 hours later, all we've done is just answered everyone else's questions and like put out fires. So one of the things I started doing earlier this year is just making a list once a week of a couple bullet items that I want to make sure that I get done personally, whether it's health-wise or just things personally with the family, and then a couple things I want to work on professionally. I am working on a new book. I am working on some other bigger things that take more than just a couple hours or a day or two. And so if, as far as success, it's like, am I moving the needle forward beyond just putting out fires, beyond what's happening right now? So I think that's a huge thing, cool. And just staying true to your priorities. I mean, if it's really easy to say, hey, family first, and then they're kind of the first ones that get shoved aside when something else happens. So, no one's perfect. I am certainly not perfect, but, just trying to stay true to that and, have your yeses be yeses and your no's be no's. I know, I don't know if Deborah's still in our chat, but her and I have talked about that for quite some time. And, just being true to who you are and who you want to work with. And
that's it. Yeah. It's sort of take a little bit of a lead, a little bit of control. But again,
you don't have to work with everyone. You don't have to say yes to everything. It's all good.
Give me any last words or tips you want to share with everybody. Just anything. I know we've covered a lot today for sure. And there's obviously so much more we can get into. But just any sort of maybe last 2 cents for anybody, just as it comes to their social strategy and that fear around social and that time constraint around social media.
Oh my goodness. Well, I know I mean, I would just say start with where you're at. And I think it's really easy when you listen to, a conversation like this, or you go to a class or you listen to a webinar, it's really easy to say, that all sounds really great, but this week's really busy. So I'm going to start next week, or I'm going to wait. I need to get a real fancy camera, or I need to get a new phone, or just start. We're not to be morbid, but we're not guaranteed any more days, right? So just start with where you're at. You don't need a whole lot of fancy equipment. You all have a phone. That's all you need. Let's just, start there. And, try not to suffer from analysis paralysis. I often say, as you said earlier, done is better than perfect. And I have to remind myself of that every single day, because I tend to be a perfectionist. It's like, I don't want to publish that. That's not, look. This is social media. I'm not curing cancer. Okay. So done is better than perfect. It's all good. And just start today. I would encourage anyone who's watching live right now, start right now. Get on your phone, maybe not right now, but after we're done, and record a little 15-second video and send it to David, or send it to me, send it through Facebook Messenger. Say, hey, I saw you guys, this resonated with me, or, hey, I hope you're having a great day. I would challenge anyone who's doing that, right now. Right. Mm-hmm. And part of social doesn't always have to be what you do publicly. If you're nervous about getting on camera, start with this 1-to-1. Send videos 1-to-1. Maybe it's from after a listing appointment. Maybe it's someone's birthday. That's one small way to just get a little bit more comfortable with that, getting started, if that makes sense. So I expect to see some videos in my inbox.
Yeah. No, great advice there. Make sure you tag her, Katie Lance, tag me, David Greenspan 101. And if you do tag me and put it on the public end, I'll even put it out on my side just to help you build some more mind share.
Love that.
Katie, where can people find you? I want everybody to find you. I want them to tap into what you're doing and the Get Social Smart Academy. I mean, I think that people really need to pay attention, because you make it, you don't do it for them, but you really do simplify it, and I think that it's important that people get that message. Where can they go and connect with you?
Probably the best place is my website, katielance.com. We have tons of free resources. That's going to link you out to our Instagram and YouTube and a lot of places that we're putting out tons of free training all the time. The main way we work with agents and brokers is through our Get Social Smart Academy. We've been going strong for a little over 6 years with our academy. It's been so exciting to see that grow and thrive. And it's where we have all of our training and templates and, everything that we offer with coaching. So if anyone's listening and thinking, all right, I got to get my arms around all this, I would encourage you to check that out. So yeah, katielance.com. My email's on there too. I answer all my own emails, so feel free to email me also.
Everybody, make sure that you check her out. Check out the academy. Again, always a pleasure. You are such a wealth of information when it comes to this stuff, and I thank you so much for making the time to join me on the podcast today, just to share this with all of our Mindshare community and help them really build a lot more mindshare when it comes to their social media strategies. So, thank you, Katie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David, and thanks so much everyone who tuned in either live or if you're watching this later on the recording. It was really a pleasure to be here today.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mind share so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve and how we will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. All you have to do, and this is super easy, is go to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Be sure to visit their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and follow them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they are always hosting, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine. And of course, again, do not forget, Recharge 2022 coming up at the end of this month on March 31st. Tickets are now on sale, available on their website. Go and get them before they're gone. Of course, I also want to thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked us out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.